Hello everybody, here we are again constructing the Enterprise J in Blender. Just to kind of be forward with y'all up front is that this is actually the second time that I've recorded this episode. First time I recorded, I got some work done, and then I realized right after recording that for some reason my microphone did not initiate, so I didn't record any audio. So I was faced with three options. Option one, I can release it as is, maybe without the audio, maybe put some music in the background. Option two, which I was about to do, was I recorded a new intro and exit, then time lapsed the previous work with a little bit of commentary over it, but I decided to go ahead and redo the episode, leaving the changes as is. So we'll pick up where I originally left off at, and we'll continue from there. So there is some stuff that you may or may not see on here. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to turn this into, whoops, into a render mode so you can see is that I've started putting in some hull plating or hull details onto these parts of the wings or pylons. Don't know what I'm going to call these quite yet. They're not necessarily pylons, but or warp nacelle pylons. These right here are the pylons, but these aren't. But there's details in here, and I've decided to do that because if you look here on the picture, whoops, there we go, you can see details on both sides that look like that they are indeed um, raised and recessed details, almost, if you will. You want to say it. It's kind of like hull panels. I don't really see them though as being hull plates or hull panels because, as I mentioned in the previous episode, and we did decide to do this, or I decided to do this, is that the ship is going to be grown, or made all in one continuous piece or one large piece and then slightly assembled together. It's kind of like with the 3D printing that we see in today's technology, to where you print the pieces and then you just kind of almost solvent weld them together in such a way to where you really don't, if it's done well, you don't really see the blend lines. So that's what we decided to do, and in the last episode, that's what I started to do. I was kind of doing it the way that I usually put in hull plate details. I'll give you a quick overview of what I've done, and then we'll do the rest. Is first thing that I had to do is that I went into the, oops, I'm selecting, there we go. Uh, there we go. Is that I went into this mesh, I selected these edge loops here, and I first flattened them out by going scale S to scale, and then, whoops, yeah, S, and then X to scale it along the X axis. So I'd press X or S for scale, X for the X axis, and then 0 to zero out the entire. Um, Hold up, something just popped up. Hopefully it didn't show up on the feed, but anyways, I was saying S to scale, X for it to be on the X axis, and then 0 to zero it out. And then I would rotate RZ to rotate this on the Z axis. And my goal was to try to get to where that poly edge would line up. This poly edge here would line up with a hull detail. And now if we look at these hull details, it's a little bit erratic. So I kind of went ahead and came up with my own conclusion on how I want to run these details. Now I did save a backup of this, and I do have on another layer, a copy of this same mesh here. So if I do something I don't like it, I can just delete it, bring in the older mesh, and start from there. Also, the other thing is that I did is that I applied the modifier, the mirror modifier, to where when you're in edit mode, it renders off both sides of the, yeah, as you can see, it'll render off both sides. So I can work on either or side just fine. Oops, I selected the wrong one again. There we go. Yeah, if you can see, because this side I have a better look at it, so I can just do that. And as you can see, yeah, yeah. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to add in a couple of extra edge loops. So I have this edge loop here already lined up there. I need to put in another one, so I'm going to do Control R. That puts in another edge loop, and that seems to match up. Oh yeah, the reason why I rotated the edge loops once again is I can't remember if I just said it, but to match it up with these hull plates or these hull details. Now what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to try to grab this one here, and I'm going to do Control E and edge slide. See, to slide that edge just a little bit more right there. Okay. Now, next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is select these two meshes here. Now, once again, this is the way that I like to try to make these hull plate details on most of my ships. I know there's probably other ways that people do it, but this is my preferred way. Is I get the edge loops to match up with the hull detail that I want to add in. Then I'm going to go ahead and press E to extrude it, but I'm just going to quickly press my mouse button to stop it to where I can extrude it. I just want to extrude it, so all it's doing is it's creating two new edges surrounded by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 6 adjacent edges. Now, if you look at this, because the subsurf modifier, it starts to get a little bit wonky. So what I need to do now is I need to select all of these surrounding edges here, like that. And then I'm going to do Shift E in Blender, and there. Yeah, that kind of straightens out all those edges. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do now is, oh, let's see. Now see if oh, you know what? I think it did extrude the edge just a little bit. Ah, darn it. Let me do it this way. I made a mistake. That was my fault. Okay, let's try that again. So once again, select, hold down shift to select both of those, extrude and immediately click. Now just to make sure that that it didn't extrude at all, all right, good. That's what I want. All right, so we go back up to the top, select the surrounding edges here, Shift E, and oh, okay, I forgot one more thing. I'm sorry. Okay, extrude, click. Now I gotta go press S to scale, because I want to scale this down just a little bit, in about 9 point or 0.95, right around there seems to work. So we're going to leave that there. Now I go ahead and select these. I knew I was forgetting something. Select these surrounding edges, Shift E, there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these edges again. I'm going to go to the front and extrude just ever so slightly. Now what that did is that created another two faces with these surrounding faces here. So I'm going to select these surrounding faces again. And I'm going to do the same Shift E that we just did. And so now what that did is that created some hull plates details that are ever so slightly raised. And that's what I want them just ever so slightly raised above the original hull. So if we go ahead and go into our rendered mode, there you can see the hull plate details. And you can actually, yeah, that's looking pretty good. Now, however, though, by shifting, what is that called? Shifting. Let me see. Control. Whoops. Let me go and edit. Let me see if I can find the actual name to that. Control E. Shifty. Okay, edge crease. All right. Now, applying edge creases to those edges while the rest of this is still, just default subsurface, you get these little anomalies here. So we got to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and go back. Well, let me, so I can see. Let's go back to solid. I'm going to go back to edit mode. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these and shift though and increase the edge crease on those. I could do the same thing over there, but I'll wait. And now if we go ahead and render that, as you can see, we get rid of that little bit of anomaly that we had. We still got anomaly over there, but we'll fix that as we work our way up. Oops. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of more of these real quick. Um, But yeah, I went ahead and made the decision that rather than trying to go with the traditional Aztec hull plating that we normally see on these Federation vessels, I instead am going to go with the idea that the entire mesh has been grown, or the entire hull has been grown, because I think that really kind of shows more of the. I think that's just the way that it would normally go. Is that they would. Okay, I need to select this edge here. That just seems like that's the way that technology is going to be progressing. Is that they're going to make it to where you actually kind of grow the hull, grow the ships. Not so much growing to where it would be organic, but growing it to where it would. I mean, what's just like 3D printing as what we got today, and I think I explained that in the last episode. So extrude, select or scale down to 9.5, somewhere around there. And I think you do have shortcuts where I can actually put in scale 9.95, but nah, let's do this. So, and I think it's going to be a challenge on just trying to come up with a texture that's going to look good. I mean, I really love the Aztec hull type texture that we see on, the movie version of the Enterprise, Enterprise A, and you know, subsequent ships all the way into even the Enterprise E. But it's just not the way that the technology that I see it to be progressing. So we're going to go with that. Once again, the texturing is going to be very interesting to try to do. But at the same time, that's going to open up the possibility that we can do some really nifty things. So it's going to be a challenge, but I'm up to it. There we go. Okay, Shift E. Boom, there we go. And once again, I just want this to be very subtle. All right. So far, it's looking pretty good, and it looks like it goes all the way up at some point in time. I think right about there is where we're going to stop it. So, and I'm not 100% set on whether if I kind of like this look, but we're going to just put it in right now. And I'm probably not going to touch this too much until I've kind of made or at least this part of the ship 100%. I'm not going to touch it until I'm 100% positive that that's what I like because I don't want to make a whole lot of changes. Then I hate this, and then I have to default back to the incomplete model. So, but we got time. We definitely have time. But yeah, I don't know what I would want to call this particular type part of the structure. I don't really see it being the it's obviously connected to the to the warp pylons or to the warp, which is therefore connected to the warp nacelles. But at the same time, it doesn't really look like that it would be. I mean, this is connected to the nacelles. This is almost, especially on the back shot, you can see it's almost kind of just hovering it over there. So, if anything, I don't think this is really a part of the warp nacelles. I think this would be more along the lines of a completely new drive, or for lack of a better term, kind of the universe drive, because this is supposed to be a universe vessel. I mean, this is supposed to be, scaling along, or not scaling. That's because I'm scaling. I'm thinking the scaling, but it's supposed to be actually, you know, navigating the universes. I mean, from universe to universe and exploring that. So, ew, ew. I'm going to have to fix some of that before I move any more. Wow. Um, yeah, let me. It's an easy fix. Straighten that out. There we go. All right, there we go. Moving right along. But yeah, this is a vessel that's supposed to be going from universe to universe. So, you know, of course, it's going to have multiple drives. I see that this type of ship actually having four sets of drives or engines. You have your thrusters, which of course is very slow. Then you got your impulse engines, which is used for traveling short distances. And then you have your warp, of course, the famous warp drive for if you are navigating within a galaxy. But if you're navigating in between galaxies, you need something a lot faster. And that would be this universe drive. And you're not going to use the universe drive within the galaxy, just like about how if you're within a solar system. You always see them in the television show when they're within a solar system. They reduce down to impulse power, unless they're trying to get away or they're running to the planet as quickly as possible. They try to reduce down to impulse power, and they're navigating under impulse power around the solar system. Once they leave the solar system, then they jump into warp, and then so on and so forth. So it'd be to maneuver out of a dry dock, they'd use thrusters. Then they would use impulse to move out of the solar system. Once they're out of the solar system, then they would use warp to get out of maybe like a cluster of different solar systems or what have you. Or from one galaxy to the or not galaxy, one solar system to the next solar system, and then once decided they need to move to another part of the universe, then they would just ooh, what is happening here? Let's try something. Scale x0. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. I guess as we're getting further up, some of the edge loops are not cooperating. But yeah, so this is all a part of the why are you not sliding? Oh, there you go. All right. Hmm. Let's do that. Well, let's take a look and see how that looks. Okay. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing that as a part of. And this part right here is also connected to this, and that's all a part of transporting this ship from solar system to solar system. Let's see. So we go to render. Let's render that. Eh, it's not too bad. I mean, I still got a lot of fleshing out to do within on this part, but not too bad. I might work on lowering those. I mean, just to try to make them just ever more subtle, because I don't want to make this hull look like that it is welded together. I want it to look like that, kind of like, oh, what's the best way to probably describe it? I mean, there are surface details. They're just not welded on plates. So, they kind of look mechanical. I mean, this entire ship still looks mechanical. I mean, just like you have these little details right here. Let's go ahead and go into back in this. Just like we got these little details right here. I mean, there is mechanical details on this ship, but I'm trying not to make it too mechanical if you catch my drift. So I'm going to go ahead and let that keep it right there and uh, look at it a little bit. Maybe under some different type of lighting, and we'll see what happens. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and real quick for the last part of this episode, let's look at this secondary hull here. I do know the idea of the secondary hull on this ship is something that it's not really, supported with on-screen evidence. Of course, though, minus the one scene where you see that there's, Archer and Daniels is in a little room overlooking, you know, this section here underneath the saucer section, and I don't. I mean, I see what all this is. What they're looking at. That is underneath the saucer section. I don't see that being any other part of the ship. So, and that's why I'm modeling this. But it's. I don't know where they're at. But I mean, they're obviously the window is straight up and down. I mean, given that the ship's 2 miles long, you know, it could be just a small little, about the size of my mouse, like right there. Could be the window, could be the entire deck. So it's only right. It could only be right there. But I still think that the idea that this ship needs to have the secondary hull, mostly because two reasons. One, I want this ship, and this is my personal preference. Once again, there's besides the underside that was created or shown by Doug Drexler, but not shown on screen. Um, there is no secondary hull, but I like the idea of having secondary hull because it kind of still ties back into the at least the Enterprise E to where it had the I mean, all the Enterprises except for the NX-01 had a secondary hull, so I want to kind of get that secondary hull going. I want to try to retain that, and I want to try to keep it more like the Enterprise E to where it has, this kind of swept back look, or not swept back look, but necklace like look, you might say. Um, and plus, also, I think that given what this ship does, why? Oh, that's right. Given to what the purpose of the ship is I mean it's supposed to be heavily exploring the universes. So with that being said, I mean it's almost makes sense that it would have. Oh, okay, that's right. That's what I ought to do right there. It ought to have redundant features on it, redundant drives and everything. I mean, just like in Voyager, as small ship as the Voyager is, it had a primary warp core, then had a secondary warp core somewhere here. So if they needed to, they can run off of a second warp core. So that just makes sense. So a ship like this would also have to have the same thing, to where if they are in another universe and they get their drive goes out, well, they're stuck with one drive. What are they going to do? Wait for somebody to come rescue them? No, I mean they're going. It makes sense that they would have their own secondary, component, secondary drive that they can quickly swap out and be able to be on their merry way. You know, um, I mean, just given how the ship could potentially be away from its home planet or its home galaxy for years. You would want redundancy so it can repair itself. So, redundant computer cores, redundant warp drives, redundant universal drives. And even if there's all these people are staying in this section here, in this saucer section, this is the main habitat area. Well, what if something happens to this habitat area? Where are all those people going to go? Well, a secondary hall would be, ideal. So I'm going to be developing this hall. I'm just trying to think, and I'm kind of toying around with it right now of the shape. I mean, right now this is just kind of the general shape that I gave it, but I'm looking at possibly. Oops, nope. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. Trying to give it more of a sleeked back look. Ah, okay. Yeah, maybe not quite far up there, but give it to where this little detail here moves back. I mean, it's a little bit more of a sharp angle rather than that kind of shallow angle. It's more of a sharp angle right there. So it's still a secondary hull. It just blends in. It just kind of molds naturally off of this and then comes down this way and then dips back up into the back where the impulse engine is going to be. That's probably what I'm going to look at. I just have to figure out what I want to do with the, with this, with this secondary deflector dish. And once again, redundancy. I think that this ship would have a secondary deflector dish just in case something happens to this main deflector dish. So, with that being said, I think I'm going to go ahead and call the episode quits right now. I think I'm running kind of long, and I really do need to try to find ways to, you know, try to shorten these episodes. I mean, I don't know whether if y'all are enjoying. I mean, those of y'all that are watching these, I don't know if y'all are quite enjoy it to where y'all seeing these episodes as long as they are. But I really will try to work on getting them just a little bit shorter. So if y'all have, for those of y'all that time is precious, just like with me, you're not wasting your time watching a 30-minute episode on me just rambling on. So I'm going to go ahead and save this because I kind of like what I'm doing here, but I can always go back and fix it. But yeah, so as usual, go ahead and you feel free to give me your input. Leave some comments down below about what y'all think or any ideas that y'all might have. I am posting this on sci-fi meshes.com. I think sci-fi mesh. You just Google sci-fi meshes. I am posting it on there, so you can also go over to that and leave some comments or links. It's about time that I go ahead and post some updated pictures of this ship on there. So I might probably do that too. But yeah, so let me know what y'all might think, or y'all have any suggestions or anything, and or if y'all have any questions. Either how I'm doing something or what do what's my opinion on something about the ship. Yeah, just feel free once again, leave down there, down below, leave a comment. I really appreciate y'all watching this. I hope y'all enjoyed as much as I enjoy making it. And I will be looking forward to seeing you again in episode 16. Until then, we will see you.